And joining us in studio is Esther Shakela, the acting spokesperson of the Namibia Student Organization. Before we go into that interview, we're going to go for a quick commercial break. Welcome to the Evening Review. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm fine. We've seen of late that government has sort of the issue of free education. Schools are complaining, and that parents need to come to the party as far as children's school fees and so forth, and supporting schools is concerned. What is Nanso's view on free education?
I think really our view in free education is that primarily it is a constitutionally enshrined right of every Namibian learner, and it is a commendable effort from government side to have taken that extra step to ensure that it's something that is implemented and reinforced in our school curriculum. And we think that it is also very necessary and useful as well as convenient, because previously a lot of schools, not a lot of schools, but most schools used to really ask parents to pay for the school development fund, and there were parents that were genuinely unable to meet that requirement annually, and so this has replaced the burden that was there as a mandatory fee for learners to be able to go to school. Of course, now we see that schools have taken steps to now ask parents to perhaps be the ones that buy the stationery for the learners as well as pay voluntary fees. But that has now posed a problem, because now there are schools that are saying you can't come to school if you don't have the rim of paper that we're asking you to bring along, or if you don't have the glue or this particular set of pencils. So ideally, really as an organization, we believe that free education is necessary, and that it is a step in the right direction, and that we just need to reinvigorate our efforts into ensuring that it is sustainable and implemented in a manner that is does not disadvantage any learner or any parent in so doing.
And then we saw last year that grade 12 students were forced to rewrite certain subject. And the issue of exam leaks. What is Nanso's take on that whole debacle?
It was a very unfortunate situation, because not only did it indicate that we do have quite a number of unethical parties in our education fraternity that have really compromised the quality of our education, but then we have now also taken note that there seems to be an issue of discipline amongst the learners who have participated or rather partook in the sharing of these leaked examination papers. And really, as an organization, even in the press statement that we released with regards to this leak, we encouraged learners to commit themselves to their studies, to be disciplined and ethical as well as integral in so doing, and not to be tempted to finish their academic races through other means or through alternative means. So it is really an unfortunate situation. Our motto is always that it's education towards social progress, but we know that this access to education that we're constantly championing an agenda for and that we're constantly advocating for needs to be of quality, and we cannot ascertain that quality if we have practices like this that are going on in our schools as well as in the education fraternity. So really for us is that those who are complicit must be called to task and held accountable through whatever legal means is available from government side, but then also that the learners must be encouraged to genuinely study, to commit themselves to their studies, because at the end of the day, they still need to use the acquired skill in the marketplace and for the betterment of the entire country. And they cannot do that if they are fraudulent in the acquiring of those skills, because then at the end of the day, we actually have an unskilled labor force.
This issue of NSFAF keeps coming up, where the student bodies are saying that students should not pay back the debt. Nanso in particular has also voiced the issue that students do not have to pay back the debt. My question is, NSFAF needs to fund future students. NSFAF has to fund its own operations. Where is this money going to come from if students are not going to be allowed to pay back the money?
Really, I think ours has always been that they must find a sustainable means of funding itself. You know, NSFAF must find a manner to be self-sustaining in their financial aspects, because ours is uncompromisingly that it is free tertiary education in our lifetime. And we are unapologetic about that. And it is also as per Resolution 16 of the Namibian National Students Organization, which was adopted at the Congress in earlier times. So ours is really that students should not pay back that money, and we've made that categorically clear. And that is why even when NSFAF at some point had embarked on a journey to have a mass publication of loan defaulters' names in newspapers, we condemned such an action, because not only is it indignifying, but it also is from our end that we are relentless in the pursuit of free tertiary higher education. So perhaps we can find where gaps exist in government funding, and where we can also make very significant compromises to ensure that the funding body is self-sustaining. But really ours is that free tertiary education in our lifetime.
The year's just started. What are your expectations as Nanso from the leadership in the country for the year 2022?
Well, Nanso has recently just launched the Access to Basic Education campaign. And this Access to Basic Education campaign is part of our annual flagship program, which seeks to address impediments and barriers to education, and so far as learners and students are concerned. So the Basic to Education Access to Basic Education campaign launch, is one this year that strengthens our advocacy points and really calls on government and our national leaders to also then prioritize ICT development in schools, especially seeing that we are, as a country, at the advent of the fourth industrial revolution. And then secondly, for us to also strengthen infrastructural development in schools, because we are aware that there is congestion of classrooms, and teachers are complaining that they sometimes have to teach close to 40 to 45 learners in a single classroom. And we always have this issue of placement in schools at the beginning of each and every year, and learners are now sharing one textbook while there are 8 of them. And this really is compromising the quality of the education that we are putting out, and is also making school not conducive if people have to be squeezed into the classes, sometimes during very hot weather. So we are expecting that as we continue to champion these agenda points, as we continue to really call on our leaders to look into the situation on the ground, specifically in the schools, we really expect that they will heed our call and respond to it in a positive manner, and that we can really find amicable solutions to the challenges that learners are facing.
And then what is your message to the learners and to the students for the academic year 2022?
Our message to the learners is really to remain steadfast in the pursuit of education, and to never waver thinking that education is not necessary, or that education has no benefits, or that it yields no results. Any developed country requires an educated class of citizens. For us to effectively participate in our democracy, we do need to have certain level of intellectualism that is only going to be attained if we have an education. We understand that we have braved through unprecedented times, particularly with the outbreak of COVID-19, and now with the learners that have to rewrite their examinations as a result of the leak last year. But we would really just like to encourage learners to remain steadfast in the pursuit of their education, to remain disciplined and focused, and to really always have the best interests of the country, their community at large, at heart as they do these things, and to really just take heart and know that the Namibian National Students Organization exists for them, and that they should never hesitate to reach out to the organization should they require any assistance whatsoever, and also really to find a space and a place for belonging.
Thank you very much for joining us on the Evening Review.
Thank you very much for having me, Khone.
Thank you for tuning into the Evening Review. Have yourself a good weekend.